You're having a conversation with somebody who is saying some of the most heinous things about marginalized communities, and you react harshly. And that person says, "Why are you being so mean to me?" And then you think, or maybe you don't think, does this person know what privilege is at all? That's what we're going to talk about today. Let's make it make sense.
I want to address the gay part for a moment because I've actually had a lot of conversations with Christian nationalists. And I got to tell you, Dave, they may not be for gay marriage. Matt Walsh arguably being the most aggressive about gay families.
And by may not.
Having said that, I've spoken to Benny Johnson, against it, who couldn't have been more lovely. I've watched your conversations with Charlie Kirk, who said, "Listen, I'm a Christian. America's not a theocracy. I wouldn't want to end your marriage." I've spoke to Andrew Wilson, who is like, "Listen, this is a power game, and I want to win it." But couldn't have been more lovely to me outside of our position about that, and he was still lovely to me even when we were talking about it. My point being, you can have conversations with conservatives and they can say, "I'm against gay marriage, I'm against gay families, I don't believe in it from a religious perspective," but they are always civil. They never wage ad hominem attacks. They're never aggressive. They're never cruel.
First, I want to strip the politics right off the word. Privilege is just a positional term. So it describes what any given system will do to you by default just based on which category you're in. It doesn't say anything about your character. It doesn't say anything about your work ethic or your intentions. It just describes where you're standing based on the rules. And so the reason that people get defensive is because when they hear you have privilege, they think it's an accusation. It's not an accusation. Saying somebody has a privilege is the same. It's the same as saying somebody is tall at a concert. They didn't go out of their way to buy a tall person ticket. They're not a terrible person because they can see better. But when they're standing, like, the person behind them can't see. So the observation's correct. You know what I mean? Like, it's true. Privilege is also not just one thing. It's just like an observation of multiple different things that could happen. So just on a high level, here's a few types of privilege that you can be looking at. So when we're discussing this, we could be looking at structural privilege. So structural privilege could be built directly into a law, an institution, policy. The rules would be written with certain people in mind. Wink, wink. Get it? Social privilege built into the norms that we do, built into assumptions and stereotypes, built into our interactions. They include what people can think they can tell about you as soon as you walk into a room.
So so if you wouldn't bake me a cake, that's okay. And now, because it's 50-50, I can't bake you a cake, which David's an incredible chef, and he would have done it kosher, the whole thing, man.
Well, now I feel bad.
He would have done it for you.
You got me this close.
Putting that aside, you can't have David's kosher cake now. If we were having an anniversary party, would you come? If I was inviting all the crew that we all know, and we were just an anniversary party, we're just having a party, and I'll even throw in some kosher food for you to make sure you don't have to bring your own food.
Honestly, I'd have to think about it. In the same way.
So that's interesting to me, because that's a different thing.
Well, not really, because again, it's if you're a religious person, and again, take it from the religious perspective. From the religious perspective, the question is
economic privilege. It's just built into access, built into opportunity, inherited position. It's not just wealth, but also what doors can open by default. Experience. Experience is a good one because it's the things you just don't have to think about. You're just going about your day, not paying this tax that other people have to pay. And privileges, they can stack. Some of them you can have multiple of. some of them can cancel each other out, believe it or not. And some can just exist on their own. Like somebody can have a structural privilege, but an economic disadvantage. We know that. There isn't really like a scoreboard for this. Again, these are just observations. Now, for most people, privilege is invisible when they have it. It's designed that way. Like you don't really notice the privilege when you have the wind hitting your sails and everything's going full throttle. But two questions can get to the heart of it pretty quick. The first one is, who isn't in this room and why not? Think about all of the efforts made around that question in STEM. Who's not in this room and why not? Sometimes you go into a room and you think there's representation for everybody and that there's a reason if there isn't. If you really think about it, you examine it, you'll see that that's not the case. Another question is, what is the system doing to everybody else when it's being nice to you? How a system treats you and what it does to people in other categories that you're not in is not the same. And so a system could be really nice to me and then turn around in the exact same situation and be catastrophic to somebody else, confusing my own personal experience for just a verdict that's like, hey, everything's fine here, is just a huge mistake when it comes to a conversation about privilege.
They hate Dave Rubin because he's a gay man with the wrong opinion. Dave Rubin is gay? No! He got a husband? I did not know. I was in his presence. I didn't know. I shook his hand. I sat down with him. Why did y'all tell me before I went on his show? Oh, Stephen, why would you send me this? Oh my God, Stephen, you've ruined my day.
Okay, so once you've identified privilege, what do you do with it? Let's not do a guilt trip here. Let's give some tools. So the first thing you do is you see it. You use the two questions, and you make it a habit to see it, identify it, recognize it, name it, call it out. Don't hedge. Hey, turns out this person has to deal with this thing. I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to deal with that as a complete sentence, believe it or not. And try not to weaponize your comfort. Your positive experience doesn't mean that the system's working, that it's fair, that everything is great. It just means that for now and for you, the system's working. And then the last part, this is probably the most important. Pay attention to the impact, not the intent. You could be super nice. You could be well-intentioned and be participating in some of the most jacked up systems with a smile on your face. Pleasantness isn't a defense. That's how a lot of times things stay invisible. I hope I made that make sense. If you like what we're doing here, go ahead and obviously subscribe, hit a like, but also hit our support page. If you go to endofaspecies.com/support, you can support the movement for us to continue doing stuff on this platform and move our content to places where saying certain things isn't as frowned upon as in the places where it is. For the rest of you, I'll see you next time.